Great.
Welcome.
That's a great question. Now, I was really interested, Katie, you were talking about counterfeiting and how proactive you were over the Olympics, and it sounds like you're very proactive in general. In our country, in Canada, how do our counterfeiting rates compare to other countries?
Well, generally speaking, we're broadly in line with other countries, and I would consider other countries that are similar to us as being the G25, so the United States, the Euro countries, Australia, New Zealand, etc. So, we have a few more counterfeits than some countries and significantly less than others, but we're doing pretty well. Having said, like I mentioned earlier, we brought counterfeiting rates down by about 90% in the past 6 years. And look for new banknotes in next year. They're going to look a lot different.
Oh, so, good to know.
Again, with the education, make sure you're always aware, and they'll be coming out about September or October next year. So there'll be information all over the media and on our website as well.
Fantastic. Now, Andy, I have a question for you. You touched a little bit on investment scams, but what are some of the most popular investment scams that are happening right now?
Sure. I mean, I like to say this is the best of times and worst of times for investment fraud, in the sense that obviously it's the worst of times because we've had what seems to be a whole pattern of them lately, from what I mentioned, the Madoff situation down in the States to the Earl Jones in Quebec, and even more closer to home, the Ian Thao incident here in Victoria. So one of the things that we find that is most prevalent is the Ponzi scheme. And what that really is in most simple terms, and I hate to say this, but it was a term that's coined by someone who worked and lived here in Montreal, Canada, a guy named Charles Ponzi, whereby really there is no actual investment vehicle. What it is that the fraudster or the scheme relies upon money from new investors to pay out current or previous investors. So it's a house of cards. All it takes is a couple of people to ask questions, or for ourselves to be looking at it before that card house totally crumbles. So that by far is the one that's garnering the most media attention at this point.
Yeah.
But there are others. I mean, the boiler rooms are something that we see here in Canada, and the crooks are getting smarter. I mean, we work quite a bit with the SEC, our Securities Exchange Commission partners down in the States, also the RCMP as well, the commercial crime and IMET groups here, because a lot of times now the fraudsters aren't even here in Canada. They will use social media networks, electronic means, and other ways to get at you. And just beware when those things happen. Yeah. One last thing, just this week we issue a warning to investors about a current scheme. We did it in concert with the Manitoba Securities Commission, and it is cautioning people against what is called an unlocking scheme. What that is the scheme itself basically gets people to take their money out of their RRSPs, okay? What they're promising is the ability to unlock those funds without any tax consequences, and they specifically target individuals that have high level of debt. They're basically using the pitch that, you know what, here's some money that you can get access to right now. They'll even sweeten the pot at times by saying, we'll give you a dividend for unlocking this money, and basically get you to do that. But not only is it a scam, but on top of that, CRA, Revenue Canada, doesn't view us very well, and many of the unfortunate victims have also seen the fact that they've had CRA attention as well. So that's a scheme that we're just warning people about now. Come to our website, take a look at the details of that, but that's the ways that are popular out there now in terms of investment frauds.
And I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that in the news. That's an interesting one. So I had a question for Michelle. We talked a bit about gift cards, and I know that the regulations around gift cards have changed, but I was curious to hear if mall gift cards, so when you buy a gift card to a mall like Metrotown, are they allowed to have expiry dates on those types of cards?
So the legislation changed last year in November, or sorry, in 2008 in November. Basically, what has happened is that expiry dates are no longer allowed to be applied to cards for a monetary value. So an example of that would be purchasing a gift card for your mom for Mother's Day at a spa to spend $100 on anything she wants. Those cards are no longer allowed to have expiry dates. However, mall cards can have expiry dates. They're not considered your typical store card, so they can if it's a mall card. For example, a mall card for Metrotown Mall. If you're purchasing a specific good or a service, cards are allowed to have expiry dates. So again, the spa example, if you purchased a $100 manicure, pedicure, facial set for your mom, that would be allowed to have expiry dates.
That's good to know. So we're going to open it up one last round of questions. Anyone in the audience who has anything to ask from our panel. And I'm also going to just make a little housekeeping reminder that I believe you have it in the bags that you received on your chair, but there is a survey that if you're able to fill it out, you can enter into our draw in the back there. Maybe we can even come around and collect them in the next minute here. And those open you up to some great prizes that we're going to be drawing here in a few minutes. So stick around and enter your surveys. Oh yeah, one question over here. Oh, sorry. Okay, we have two. Great.
This question is for Katie. Okay. For some reason, if you end up getting a counterfeit currency, which you didn't realize, and then you end up using it somewhere and you get caught, are you guilty of an offense?
Okay, so I think the question was, if you had a counterfeit that you gave to someone without knowing, and they went and they spent it? Okay.
And they realized it was a counterfeit.
They didn't realize?
No, they did
They
realize.
realized it.
They did realize.
You didn't realize it.
You didn't realize it.
But they did realize
But they realized it.
And
Okay.
then are you guilty of an offense? That?
Wow. Okay. Well, first, if you haven't guessed already, but actually having in your possession or passing on a counterfeit is an offense under the criminal code.
Wow.
And notwithstanding where that counterfeit is sort of intercepted, I guess I'll say, most likely you won't be reimbursed for having that counterfeit bill. How different retailers or banks respond to counterfeit notes on a case-by-case basis, I can't really speak because everyone has their own policies and procedures. But the message we're really trying to drive home is you always want to check your banknotes before they get into your pocket or before they get into your till. It's all about prevention and education. So you just want to be diligent, and that's a good way to be a smart shopper or smart consumer, is to always check your banknotes before you have the chance to take that loss.
And what would you encourage for people who maybe, they're at a store and they receive a bill that looks suspicious? What would your recommendation be for?
I would recommend that you just sort of point, if you are working on the clerk side of the till and someone tries to pay with a note that you think looks suspicious, you want to advise them that you think the note looks a little suspect and that they should take it into the police. Okay. Because as soon as you take that bill into your till, it becomes your loss at the business. So you also want to notify the local police that there's been an attempt at a counterfeit pass as well. And that goes both ways. You can always request another form of payment, or as a shopper, you can always ask for another bill.
Great, thank you. And then there was a question, right there. Hello.
Hello, yes, thank you. I just wondered if you could give some kind of brainstorming tips if you're a consumer and you have to make a complaint. What's the most effective way do it?
Yeah,
How do you kind of get your ducks in a row to complain?
Maybe point that to
effectively?
Lynda.